Good morning, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, let's get into the news this Tuesday morning. Congress passes defense bill nearly $45 billion over Biden's budget request, as debt climbs to $32 trillion. The Democratic-led Congress passed a defense bill with bipartisan votes in the House and Senate nearly $45 billion over Biden's defense budget request. Biden had requested $813.3 billion for the defense budget, and the National Defense Authorization Act that Congress passed costs $858 billion. The legislation includes pay raises for U.S. troops and aid to Ukraine. In addition to the defense bill, the Biden administration is asking Congress for $38 billion more in Ukraine assistance as the Russian invasion continues. Biden is expected to sign the bill. The U.S. ran a budget deficit of the $1.4 trillion in fiscal year 2022. The national debt is climbing to $32 trillion and inflation is at 7.1%. According to the Labor Department, North Carolina's Supreme Court rules that state Senate map must be redrawn. A state Senate map will return to trial judges to craft new boundaries for 2024 after Democrats on the state Supreme Court outvoted the Republican colleagues to rule the map unconstitutional. Quote, the trial court erred in its determination that legislative defendants' remedial Senate plan met constitutional standards. Specifically, the trial court's legal conclusion that RSP is constitutionally compliant is unsupported by findings of fact that are supported by competent evidence. Associate Justice Robin Hudson wrote in the majority opinion released on Friday, the ruling stems from advocacy groups who challenged prior rulings that upheld revised state Senate and House district approved by the General Assembly for the 2022 elections. The groups alleged the revised maps continue to discriminate against certain demographics. The decision affirmed the state House boundaries met standards set by the state Supreme Court, but justices sent to the Senate map back to trial judges to modify district boundaries for the upper chamber for 2024. Quote, only to the extent necessary to achieve constitutional compliance. The Friday ruling also rejected a request by Republican leaders to strike down a congressional redistricting map. Currently at the center of the U.S. Supreme Court case Moore v. Harper, Republican Chief Justice Paul Newby penned a dissent that chided the majority for commandeering a redistricting process that's entrusted to the General Assembly. 3 men sentenced to prison for Governor Whitmer as kidnapping plot. 3 people, including a man and his son-in-law, were sentenced to prison on Thursday for assisting the leader of a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. In 2020, Pete Muscio received a minimum sentence of 12 years in prison, while his son-in-law Joe Morrison was sentenced to 10 years. A third person, Paul Beller, received 7 years behind bars during the sentencing hearing for all 3 men in Jackson County, Michigan. The men were convicted in October of materially supporting a terrorist act and 2 other accounts. Musco, 45, Morrison, 28, and Bella, 24, were all convicted of a firearms crime and being part of a gang. The paramilitary group known as the Wolverine Watchmen. Whitmer was never harmed in the plot, which was foiled by undercover FBI agents. Attorneys for the men argued that their clients had cut ties with the group before the scheme was foiled. Cities using federal emergency funds for guaranteed income projects across the U.S. About 180,000 people applied for the Los Angeles County Guaranteed Income Program in the spring of this year, but there were just 1,000 spots available. It was a sign of high demand for the $1,000 a month, no strings attached stipend from the government. New guaranteed income programs are popping up across the country as governments are using the stockpile of federal emergency money to fund them. Mayors for a Guaranteed Income is a collection of mayors from some of the largest cities in the country, orchestrating the long-term development of guaranteed income plans. The City of St. Louis approved spending $5 million of its federal pandemic recovery money on December 13 to pay for its guaranteed income programs that will give 440 households $500 a month for 18 months. Other guaranteed income programs are already funded by cities, states, or private foundations. LA County's program is funded by the government and philanthropy organizations. The city of San Francisco announced earlier this month that it received $5 million in a grant from the state to expand its guaranteed income program for pregnant Black women. That $5 million will pay an additional 425 mothers $1,000 a month for 12 months. The initial program had just 150 recipients. 16 state attorneys general oppose EPA rule setting new greenhouse gas standards. 16 state attorneys general, 15 state associations, and multiple organizations are fighting against another Environmental Protection Agency rule they argue jeopardizes American energy and national security. The AGS, led by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, filed a brief with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit to halt the EPA from implementing what they call, quote, radical climate regulations. Their efforts follow another led by Paxton and 12 attorneys general last month opposing a new EPA, quote, environmental justice rule they also argue will risk American safety. Texas, which leads the U.S. in energy production powered by oil and natural gas, argues the standards would, quote, make America weaker and increasingly reliant on hostile nations like China. Paxton said the standards, quote, unreasonably target car and light truck greenhouse gas emissions, with the goal of destroying financial incentives to manufacture gas-powered vehicles. These actions will likely lead to substantial increases in the cost of transportation for working Americans. Another cause for concern, the AGs argue, is the standards jeopardize national security. Joining Paxton are the AGs from Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Utah. Nearly 3/4 of small businesses give Biden negative performance rating in new poll. A whopping 7 out of 10 small business owners give Joe Biden a negative review in his handling of small business concerns. The poll from the Job Creators Network Foundation found that 7 in 10 small business owners, quotes, gave Biden's job performance poorly, while 43% gave him a failing grade of F. The JCN Small Business Intelligence Quotients poll also found a worsening outlook among us small business owners over the past 18 months, where 61% of owners in May of 2021 expected a, quote, better financial condition over the next 3 months from the polling date. By last month, that number had fallen to just 45%, while the number of respondents predicting a worse financial situation had more than doubled over that time, from 5% to 17%. A majority of small business owners over the past several months have told the JCS poll that they believe the U.S. economy is currently in a recession. 57% of them said as much as in August of this year, while 60% said so in November. Negative reviews of Biden's small business performance, meanwhile, were broadly distributed across revenue levels. 67% of owners with less than $100,000 in revenue gave him a negative response, while 72% of those making more than $1 million in revenue felt similarly. And then some significant news: Ron DeSantis and 10 other Republicans, Clinton, McCabe, GOP reps refer Comey, Clinton, McCabe for criminal investigation April 18, 2018. You might say, well, this is ridiculous. It's 2018. Why are you bringing it up? Nearly a dozen Republican members of Congress on Wednesday sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department and Federal Bureau of Investigation seeking an investigation and former bureau boss James Comey, his deputy Andrew McCabe, ex-Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Hillary Clinton in connection with 2016 campaign controversies. Okay. And this is a Fox News article from 2018. Why is that important? For a number of reasons. CNN, just today, January committee expected to announce referral of multiple criminal charges. They're going after Trump, they're going to refer him for crimes, they're going to avert criminal charges to the Department of Justice. Well, that already happened with Hillary Clinton. Actually, not just there were a number of times I believe that Republicans leveled criminal charges. Send a criminal referral. This is just one I believe, but this is just one article explaining that it definitely did happen. They don't need a criminal referral. The DOJ has everything that it could ever have in terms of evidence against Trump. Trump did not commit a crime, say it's slowly morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat who thinks that Trump is the embodiment of evil. He did not commit a crime, just like Elon Musk is banning or suspending journalists that are trying to do him harm. Very different from free speech. Twitter files are about free speech. Banning in sports, suspending the New York Post is about free speech. Suspending a journalist or a writer that is breaking of a law trying to harass and intimidate Elon Musk is not free speech. Do you understand simple basic concepts? Intelligentsia, our wonderful American intelligentsia, we have the biggest imbeciles, We have the most unintelligent intelligentsia that's ever existed. Do you understand very simple basic concepts? Okay. If Trump is a criminal, then he should have been indicted. We know why Clinton was in jail. Well, no reasonable prosecutor would indict, although there are potential violations of legal statutes pertaining to the handling of classified data, but no reasonable prosecutor would but with Trump, there isn't that whole spiel, reasonable prosecutor day. No, it's can we get him on something? They can't find anything. We know why Hunter hasn't been indicted already for numerous charges, tax issues, numerous, and then the graft. We know that. We know that if Trump had private servers like Hillary, or that if Trump had hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through in emails saying, oh, I'll hook you up. Or I give 10% of all the business to Trump, like Hunter 10% of the big man, Joe, and hundreds of millions of dollars, and then Joe forces out a prosecutor and withhold $2 billion in loan guarantees. And of course, that's not a problem. But the ellipsis is an impeachable offense. I mean, it's all over the place that basic logic is lacking. January coming to expect us to announce refer of multiple criminal charges? They already had? It's been 2 years. Actually, it's going on 3 years. Okay. They had all 22 that are going on in the 3rd year. Okay. They haven't found anything on Trump. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has everything it needs. In 2021, articles were published saying, hey, you know what they found no evidence, or scant evidence, here we go. They always try to, they cannot survive. The Democratic Party and the establishment in media in general cannot survive without mangling, and distorting and manipulating semantics and words and using euphemisms. And it's it finds scant evidence, the evidence was insufficient. So the Mueller probe found nothing. January committee found nothing. He never pressured people in Georgia. He didn't do anything. Criminal in New York. This whole Trump organization, that's not Trump. Corporation is not. You sue Twitter. You're not suing Elon Musk. Getting back to Elon Musk, it's a very simple, okay. You hear all these? Now he is public enemy. Number 1, it was Trump. It'll be the Santis. It was an Elon Musk. It's anyone they don't like on the left or the right. And they conflate all these things. And now it's, if they can accuse someone of bigotry or prejudice, they will, and they're trying to redefine free speech. I mean, the Twitter files, it was a snooze fest for these people who care about free speech now that the Bureau, and Homeland and other agencies were literally accessing and deleting accounts. They actually had a way to log on to Twitter and actually just do basically almost do it themselves. And in this trust and safety team, we live in a world of euphemisms. This is 1984. You have people who are claiming things that, like the people engaging in a course of action based on a justification that doesn't warrant the course of action. So the trust and safety team just happened to always ban and suspend conservatives. That was free speech to a Washington Post reporter that was now suspended. The Washington Post internet reporter is now suspended from Twitter. Because when she asked Elon Musk, you have a comment on why you suspended all of those journalists doxing you and giving your real-time location. Very simple here. Let's discuss if you're a morally superior liberal classes and section in session. Let's explain to you, okay, doxing someone's real-time location is a crime. Asking about it to further a story to justify committing the crime is a crime, or at least linked to criminal activity, or justifying despicable behavior that could endanger a family or Elon Musk's life or his family's life. Okay. That is different from the New York Post. And Hunter's emails, where people are asking him for favors, and he's promising them favors. And Joe is giving those favors. You'd have to read the emails for you to understand that, but we couldn't read the emails because we didn't have free speech. Because Twitter's trust and safety or moderation to suspended Twitter. By the way, I think that Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee in 24. Bill and Hillary, they've had the past 4 years, everything they've wanted 6 years, since 2016, they elevated Trump. So we know from the Democratic National Committee emails, what's the common denominator between the Democratic National Committee emails and the Twitter files? Oh, that's right. The shady, corrupt, deceitful behavior of Democrats and government officials siding with them. But you know what? It's a plot by the Kremlin. Don't you understand anything negative about the Democratic Party? The Kremlin wants you to know. Because Trump has a different foreign policy. We learned this from John Brennan, Donald Brennan. He said that I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. He basically told everybody I have no evidence. I just do intelligence. We make it up. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Open Source News. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and turn on the notifications.